Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I communicate now. Questioner. In our last session you said that each of us in these sessions should look well to the vital energies necessary for non-depletion of the instrument, and the contact level. Did that mean that we should, that Jim and I should look at the instruments, be careful of the instrument's vital energies, or be careful of our own vital energies? Ra. I am Ra. Each entity is responsible for itself. The mechanics of this process taking place involve firstly, the use of the physical bodily complex of third density with its accompanying physical material in order to voice these words. Thus this instrument needs to watch its vital energies carefully, for we do not wish to deplete this instrument. Secondly, the function of the supporting group may be seen to be firstly, that of protection for this contact, secondly, that of energizing the instrument, and intensifying its vital energies. The supporting group has always, due to an underlying harmony, been of a very stable nature as regards protection in love and light, thus ensuring the continuation of this narrowband contact. However, the vital energies of either of the supporting members being depleted, the instrument must then use a larger portion of its vital energies, thus depleting itself more than would be profitable on a long-term basis. Please understand that we ask your apology for this infringement upon your free will. However, it is our distortion understanding that you would prefer this information rather than being left totally to your own dedication distortions, deplete the instrument, or deplete the group to the point where the contact cannot be sustained. Questioner. Can you give us advice on how to maintain the best possible condition for maintaining contact? Ra. I am Ra. We have given information concerning the proper nurturing of this channel. We, therefore, repeat ourselves only in two ways in general. Firstly, we suggest that rather than being, shall we say, brave, and ignoring a physical complex weakness distortion, it is good to share this distortion with the group, and thus perhaps, shall we say, remove one opportunity for contact which is very wearying to the instrument, in order that another opportunity might come about in which the instrument is properly supported. Secondly, the work begun in harmony may continue. Harmony, thanksgiving, and praise of opportunities, and of the Creator. These are your protection. These are our suggestions. We cannot be specific, for your free will is of the essence in this contact. As we said, we only speak to the subject because of our grasp of your orientation towards long-term maintenance of this contact. This is acceptable to us. Questioner. Thank you very much. The instrument has a device for so-called color therapy, and since we were on, in the past session, the concept of the different colors, I was wondering if these in some way apply to the principle of color therapy and the shining of particular colors on the physical body. Does this have any beneficial effect, and can you tell me something about it? Ra. I am Ra. This therapy, as you call it, is a somewhat clumsy and variably useful tool for instigating in an entity's mind-body-spirit complex and intensification of energies or vibrations which may be of aid to the entity. The variableness of this device is due firstly to the lack of true colors used, secondly, to the extreme variation in sensitivity to vibration among your peoples. Questioner. I would think that you could achieve a true color by passing the light through a crystal of the particular color. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This would be one way of approaching accuracy in color. It is a matter of what you would call quality control, that the celluloid used is of a varying color. This is not a great or even visible variation, however, it does make some difference given specific applications. Questioner. Possibly the use of a prism breaking white light into its spectrum and then screening off all parts of the spectrum except that which you wish to pass through a slit and use would be even better. Would this be true? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Thank you. I was wondering if there is a programming of experiences that causes an individual to get certain catalyst in his daily life. For instance, as we go through our daily life, there are many things which we can experience. We can look at these experiences as occurring by pure chance, or by a conscious design of our own, such as making appointments or going places. I was wondering if there was a behind-the-scenes, as you might call it, programming of catalyst to create the necessary experiences for more rapid growth in the case of some entities. Does this happen? Ra. I am Ra. We believe we grasped the heart of your query. Please request further information if we are not correct. The incarnating entity which has become conscious of the incarnative process and thus programs its own experience may choose the amount of catalyst, or, to phrase this differently, the number of lessons which it will undertake to experience and to learn from in one incarnation. This does not mean that all is predestined, but rather that there are invisible guidelines shaping events which will function according to this programming. Thus, if one opportunity is missed, another will appear until the, shall we say, student of the life experience grasps that a lesson is being offered and undertakes to learn it. Questioner. Then these lessons would be reprogrammed, you might say, as the life experience continues. Let's say that an entity develops a bias that he actually didn't choose to develop prior to incarnation. It is then possible to program experience so that he will have an opportunity to alleviate this bias through balancing. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is precisely correct. Questioner. Thank you. Then from this I would extrapolate to the conjecture. I will say that the orientation in mind of the entity is the only thing that is of any consequence at all. The physical catalyst that he experiences, regardless of what is happening about him, will be a function strictly of his orientation in mind. I will use, as an example deleted, this being a statement of the orientation in mind governing the catalyst. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. We prefer not to use any well-known examples, sayings, or adages in our communications to you due to the tremendous amount of distortion which any well-known saying has undergone. Therefore, we may answer the first part of your query asking that you delete the example. It is completely true to the best of our knowledge that the orientation or polarization of the mind-body-spirit complex is cause of the perceptions generated by each entity. Thus a scene may be observed in your grocery store. The entity ahead of self may be without sufficient funds. One entity may then take this opportunity to steal. Another may take this opportunity to feel itself a failure. Another may unconcernedly remove the least necessary items, pay for what it can, and go about its business. The one behind the self, observing, may feel compassion, may feel an insult because of standing next to a poverty-stricken person, may feel generosity, may feel indifference. Do you now see the analogies in a more appropriate manner? Questioner. Yes, I do. Then from this I will extrapolate the concept, which is somewhat more difficult, because as you have explained before, even fourth density positive has the concept of defensive action, but above the fourth density the concept of defensive action is not in use. The concept of defensive action and offensive action are very much in use in this, our present experience. I am assuming that if an entity is polarized strongly enough in his thought, in a positive sense, that defensive action is not going to be necessary for him, because the opportunity to apply defensive action will never originate for him. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is unknowable. In each case, as we have said, an entity able to program experiences may choose the number and the intensity of lessons to be learned. It is possible that an extremely positively oriented entity might program for itself situations testing the ability of self to refrain from defensive action even to the point of the physical death of self or other self. This is an intensive lesson, and it is not known, shall we say, what entities have programmed. We may, if we desire, read this programming. However, this is an infringement, and we choose not to do so. Questioner. I will ask you if you are familiar with a motion picture called the Ninth Configuration. Are you familiar with this? Ra. I am Ra. We scan your mind complex and see this configuration called the Ninth Configuration. Questioner. This motion picture brought out this point of which we have been talking. The entity, the kernel, had to make a decision at that point. I was just wondering, with respect to polarity, about his polarization. He could have either knuckled under, you might say, to the negative forces, but he chose to defend his friend instead. Is it possible for you to estimate which is more positively polarizing? To defend the positively oriented entity, or to allow the suppression by the negatively oriented entities? Can you answer this even? Ra. I am Ra. This question takes in the scope of fourth density as well as your own, and its answer may best be seen by the action of the entity called Yeshua, which you call Jesus. This entity was to be defended by its friends. The entity reminded its friends to put away the sword. This entity then delivered itself to be put to the physical death. The impulse to protect the loved other self is one which persists through the fourth density, a density abounding in compassion. More than this we cannot, and need not say.